In 1958, Tyrone Power traveled to Spain to film the epic Solomon and Sheba. Everything seemed to be going well, and most of his scenes were already finished. But during one intense sword-fighting scene, something suddenly went terribly wrong. Power collapsed on set from a massive heart attack. He was rushed to a hospital in Madrid, but it was too late. The Hollywood star died on November 15, 1958, at just 44 years old. What makes the story even more haunting is that doctors had already warned him about his health, and in a strange twist of fate, his father had died in almost the exact same way years earlier. And the truth behind Tyrone Power's final days is far more tragic than most people realize. Theater royalty and family roots. Tyrone Power was born in Cincinnati, Ohio, to the English-born stage and screen actor Tyrone Power Sr. and his mother Helen Emma Patia Power. He grew up with his sister Ann Power in a family deeply rooted in the world of theater. Acting seemed almost inevitable for him. His great-grandfather had been a well-known Irish actor and comedian, and the family tree was filled with performers and artists. Power was even connected to notable cultural figures, including actor Laurence Olivier through his paternal great-grandmother and writer Evelyn Waugh through his grandmother, stage actress Ethel Lavenue. Theatrical director Sir Tyrone Guthrie was also a distant relative. From the very beginning, Tyrone Power was surrounded by a legacy of entertainment, faith, and early ambition. Despite that glamorous background, Tyrone's childhood was far from perfect. His father spent most of his time traveling and performing, leaving young Tyrone largely in the care of his mother. Patia was a devoted Roman Catholic, and her beliefs had a strong influence on her son's upbringing. When Tyrone was just 6 years old, his parents divorced, and his mother was granted custody of him and his sister. She raised them in Cincinnati, encouraging them to stay strong and pursue their dreams. Tyrone attended Catholic schools and eventually graduated from Purcell High School, quietly developing an ambition that would shape the rest of his life. Training and tragedy. After graduating, Tyrone Power made a bold decision. Instead of attending college, he moved to Los Angeles to follow in his father's footsteps and pursue acting. He hoped to learn directly from Tyrone Power Sr., who had built a respected career on stage and in silent films. At the time, his father had recently completed his first talking picture and was preparing for another major project. But fate intervened before father and son could spend much time working together. While preparing for the film The Miracle Man, Tyrone Power Sr. suddenly suffered a heart attack and died in his son's arms. It was a devastating moment that left a lasting mark on the young actor's life, the struggle to stardom. The death of his father was a devastating blow, but Tyrone Power refused to give up on his dream of becoming an actor. Breaking into Hollywood, however, proved far more difficult than he had imagined. Even though many people in the industry had known his father, they were reluctant to give the young Power a chance. When he began auditioning for roles, most studios turned him away. He eventually landed a small part in the film Tom Brown of Culver, but it didn't open the doors he had hoped for. After that brief appearance, opportunities quickly dried up again. Determined not to quit, Power took whatever work he could find. He appeared as an extra in Flirtation Walk and spent time performing in small community theater productions. The constant rejection began to wear him down, but instead of walking away from acting, he decided to improve his craft. Taking a friend's advice, Power moved to New York to gain more experience on the stage. There he appeared in several Broadway productions, including Romeo and Juliet, St. Joan, and Flowers of the Forest. Those years in the theater quietly sharpened his skills and prepared him for the opportunity that would soon change his life. The Big Break, Lloyd's of London. That opportunity arrived when filmmaker Henry King noticed Power and was immediately struck by his good looks and natural screen presence. King believed he had the qualities of a true movie star and recommended him for the lead role in the Fox film Lloyd's of London. For Power, it was the chance he had been waiting for. But the decision wasn't easy. The role had originally been intended for actor Don Ameche, and Fox studio chief Darryl Zanuck was hesitant to gamble on an unknown newcomer. It took persistent persuasion from Henry King and film editor Barbara McLean to convince Zanuck that Tyrone Power had something special. Eventually, Zanuck reluctantly agreed to take the risk. The gamble paid off. Lloyd's of London turned Tyrone Power into a star almost overnight. The once struggling actor suddenly became one of Hollywood's most promising leading men. Audiences were captivated by his charm, confidence, and striking presence on screen. From that moment on, Power's career took off. He quickly became a box office favorite, starring in film after film across multiple genres. His versatility allowed him to move easily from adventure stories to romantic comedies like Daytime Wife and Thin Ice. A master of the blade. Tyrone Power's athletic ability made him a natural fit for action and adventure films, especially those that involved sword fighting. One of the actors who frequently crossed blades with him on screen was Basil Rathbone, an accomplished fencer himself. Rathbone later praised Power's skill, saying he was one of the best sword fighters he had ever faced on camera. According to Rathbone, Power was so agile and talented that he could easily hold his own against the greatest swashbuckling stars of the era. Power's physical presence helped him stand out in classic adventure films such as The Mark of Zorro and The Black Swan, where his swordsmanship became one of his trademarks. But he was far from limited to action roles. He also appeared in war films like This Above All and A Yank in the RAF, along with major dramas including Suez, In Old Chicago, Blood and Sand, The Rains Came, and Son of Fury, the story of Benjamin Blake. His versatility even allowed him to step into musicals, starring in productions like Alexander's Ragtime Band, Rose of Washington Square, and Second Fiddle. The rivalry of studios. With his talent, charm, and growing popularity, Tyrone Power quickly became one of Hollywood's most valuable stars. Other studios were eager to work with him, and in 1938 he was loaned to MGM to appear in the film Marie Antoinette. However, the experience did not go well. Despite being Fox's biggest star at the time, Power was given only a supporting role, something that deeply annoyed Darryl Zanuck, the head of 20th Century Fox. After that incident, Zanuck reportedly vowed never to loan Power to another studio again. Around the same time, Power met the French actress Annabella on the Fox lot. The two soon starred together in the film Suez, and their relationship quickly grew into something more personal. This surprised many people in Hollywood, since Power had already gained a reputation as a ladies' man and had been linked to several well-known actresses. Rumors and romance. Despite his public image as a heartthrob, rumors about Power's private life occasionally circulated within Hollywood circles. Some later accounts suggested that his personal life was far more complicated than the public realized. At the time, however, the biggest issue was his growing relationship with Annabella. Studio boss Darryl Zanuck strongly disapproved and reportedly tried to separate them. He even told Annabella that she would be offered film opportunities in Europe if she stayed away from Power. Annabella refused to end the relationship. As a result, Zanuck effectively blacklisted her from working at the studio. But the pressure didn't stop the couple. As Annabella later recalled, nothing could break their bond. In the end, Tyrone Power and Annabella married on July 14, 1939, though their marriage would prove far more complicated than either of them had expected. The King of Technicolor. By the late 1930s, Tyrone Power had become one of Hollywood's most dependable box office stars. He proved he could adapt to the changing film industry, easily moving into the new era of Technicolor productions. One of his biggest successes during this period was Jesse James, which became a major hit with audiences. While the film was financially successful, some critics argued that it glamorized the life of the infamous outlaw. Power's popularity meant that other studios were eager to cast him in their own productions. Despite this demand, Darryl Zanuck, head of 20th Century Fox, was determined to keep his biggest star close. Several major roles were offered to Power from rival studios, including parts in Golden Boy, King's Row, and even Gone with the Wind, but Zanuck refused to loan him out. Those films later became major successes, yet Power remained one of the biggest attractions in Hollywood. In 1939, he ranked among the top box office draws in the country, second only to Mickey Rooney. However, his reign at the box office would soon be interrupted, not by another actor, but by the outbreak of World War II, military service, and the Marine Corps. In 1943, Tyrone Power's career suddenly paused when he decided to serve in the military. Late in 1942, he enlisted in the United States Marine Corps, putting his Hollywood success on hold. Before reporting for duty, Fox requested that he complete the patriotic war film Crash Dive, which also served as a recruitment tool during the war. Power already had experience as a pilot. He had begun flying in the late 1930s and had logged around 180 hours of solo flight time before joining the Marines. Because of this experience, he was allowed to take an accelerated training program, eventually earning his wings as a Marine pilot, life as a Marine pilot. After completing officer candidate school at Quantico and boot camp in San Diego, Power was commissioned as a second lieutenant on June 2, 1943. He later trained at Naval Air Station Corpus Christi in Texas, where he successfully completed his flight training and was promoted to first lieutenant. Those who served with him spoke highly of his discipline and determination. One Marine flight instructor later recalled that Power was an excellent student who quickly learned every procedure he was taught. Among his fellow servicemen, he earned genuine respect, not as a movie star, but as a dedicated officer. Although he hoped to see direct combat, Power's role was mainly transporting cargo and personnel into dangerous war zones, including Okinawa and Iwo Jima. Military officials believed he was too valuable and slightly older than most combat pilots to be sent into frontline aerial battles. After the war ended, Power returned to the United States in November 1945 and was officially discharged from active duty in January 1946, ready to resume the Hollywood career he had temporarily left behind. A return to the screen. After returning from World War II, Tyrone Power was eager to restart his acting career. One of his first major projects was The Razor's Edge, an adaptation of W. Somerset Maugham's novel, where he starred alongside Gene Tierney, Ann Baxter, and John Payne. The film marked a strong comeback, but Power wanted more than the charming leading man roles he had been known for. Determined to prove his range, he chose a darker and more complex part in Nightmare Alley. In the film, he played Stanton Carlyle, a carnival worker who rises to fame as a spiritualist before experiencing a dramatic downfall. The role was a major shift from his usual image, and studio head Darryl F. Zanuck worried it might damage Power's popularity. Despite the risk, the film was made under the direction of Edmund Goulding. Although Nightmare Alley received strong reviews and showcased Power's acting depth, it failed at the box office. Zanuck was disappointed and believed the film had hurt Power's image, even removing it from circulation for a time. Ironically, the movie would later be recognized as one of the most powerful performances of Power's career. While his professional life continued with films like Captain from Castile, his personal life was falling apart. His marriage to French actress Annabella had already been strained, and despite their efforts to save it after the war, the couple divorced in 1948. Annabella later said the separation was painful for both of them, but neither believed the breakup was solely the other's fault. A second marriage and the search for meaning. Not long after divorcing Annabella, Tyrone Power married actress Linda Christian in Rome. Their relationship faced many challenges. Christian suffered 3 miscarriages before they eventually welcomed 2 daughters, Romina Francesca Power and Taryn Stephanie Power. Despite these happy moments, the marriage slowly deteriorated. Christian later blamed their breakup on Power's infidelity, though she admitted in her autobiography that she had also been involved in an affair with actor Edmund Purdom. The couple ultimately divorced in 1955. During this time, Power's career continued to flourish, but he was becoming increasingly frustrated with the roles he was offered. For years, he had been cast as the charming hero, yet he longed for more serious and meaningful work like his performance in Nightmare Alley. Studio boss Darryl Zanuck, however, preferred to keep him in the romantic adventure roles that had made him famous. Power eventually admitted he was tired of playing the same heroic characters and wanted to take on projects that had something deeper to say. The battle with the studio. Power's growing dissatisfaction led to tension with Zanuck and 20th Century Fox. The studio wanted to preserve the image that had made him a box office star. When Fox offered him the lead role in The Robe, Power declined, and the part went to Richard Burton. He also refused other projects, which eventually led to the studio suspending him. A compromise was later reached, allowing Power to work outside the studio as long as he completed his contract. During that period, he produced and starred in The Mississippi Gambler, a deal that reportedly earned him $1 million. He also appeared in films like The Long Gray Line and The Eddie Ducan Story, and enjoyed success on stage in England performing The Devil's Disciple, The Final Performances, and Tragedy. Power later returned to Fox to appear in The Sun Also Rises, working alongside Errol Flynn and Ava Gardner. His final completed film was Witness for the Prosecution, where critics praised his performance as Leonard Vole. Around this time, he married his third wife, Debbie Menardos. In September 1958, Power traveled to Spain to film Solomon and Sheba with Gina Lollobrigida. After completing most of his scenes, tragedy struck. During a duel scene with co-star George Sanders, Power collapsed from a massive heart attack. He died on November 15, 1958, at just 44 years old, while being transported to a hospital in Madrid. He was buried beside a quiet lake, his gravestone marked with the masks of tragedy and comedy and the words, "Good night, sweet prince." 2 months later, his wife Debbie gave birth to their son, Tyrone Power IV, ensuring that the actor's legacy would live on.